I'm calling to order the regular meeting of the Environmental Commission of Charter Township, Meridian, for January 4th, 2023. That's 23 for those who haven't caught up to the year yet. As usual, our first order of business is public remarks, and the thriving public in the audience looks like they're going to hold their tongues until later in the meeting. So we'll move to approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to propose any changes to the agenda as circulated?
Did you want me to say?
Yes.
We need to add to the agenda somewhere nominations.
Right. The first meeting of the year is our duty to elect leadership and a liaison, at least to Land Preservation Advisory Board, which is our main formal liaison, and we can also discuss liaisons to other boards and commissions. Propose that as the second item under new business. Without objection, the agenda is adopted as amended. Oh, there's our member of the public. If the television could quickly switch to the back of the room, we're going to do a quick tutorial on changing of the guard. Moving to approval of the minutes. Lovely minutes, getting better every time. I did spot a couple of typos that are quite minor. If anybody has any changes, please let us know. Going once, going twice, without objection, the minutes are approved as circulated. Moving to new business, item number 1, meeting schedule for 2023. I believe farther down in this packet is a little list. Whoop, there we go.
Here it is.
I presume that these are, without having looked at them quite closely, these are all first Wednesday dates. And it looks like we've got every month covered, a full slate. Anyone have any problems with the meeting schedule as proposed?
Can I make a suggestion? Can I make a suggestion?
Hold that button. Yes. Hold that button in until it goes on.
I'm just
I think
not,
it's forward.
Oh, yours is dead. You can't participate. Here, you can share mine. Yes, suggestion?
well, I was just noticing that July 5th is on there. It just usually seems to be problematic. I think, did we meet July last year?
July meetings seem to come and go. In years where we've had a large professorial contingent, we've tended to skip some of those summer months. Would you like to propose a different?
Not necessarily. I was just noticing it was July 5th, and it always seems to me, but it doesn't matter to me.
That's for connecting an external device.
People wanted to consider doing that differently.
Yeah, I think it would be unlikely that a quorum is going to be available on July 5th.
So, that little mouse.
I guess I proposed removing, not meeting on July 5th.
Any objections?
Mouse.
I don't think the chair got that proposal.
Sorry, I was offering technical support.
I was suggesting perhaps we did not meet on July 5th. It seems to be a hard time for people.
All right. So the proposal is to adopt this meeting schedule with the exception of deleting the July 5th meeting. Any other suggestions, changes, additions, deletions? Without objection, the schedule is adopted as amended. That takes us then to our new item 5B, election of officers, of which we have 2, a chair and a vice chair. And I will now open the floor for nominations for chair for the year 2023, hoping against hope that someone will raise their hand or, well, now you shut them all off.
What?
Unless
I have to actually shut everybody off. Okay, well, there you go.
Well, seems to work.
So as I was saying, the floor is open to anybody who wants to nominate Ned or John or anybody else to be chair. Oh,
I second that.
rats. Please, any other nominations? Rats. Okay. Hearing no nominations, we will take a voice vote on that nomination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Deafening silence. Moving on to vice chair. My understanding is that Vice Chair Grisecki would like someone else to take that role. Whose arm can we twist? John, you've served in this capacity.
I've done it. I would do it again.
Going once, going twice. I'm closing nominations for vice chair. All in favor of Anna serving as vice chair, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Yeah, thank you very much. We now have a slate of leadership. Moving to the Land Preservation Advisory Board. Commissioner Grisecki currently serves as our Land Preservation Advisory Board liaison, and I would nominate her to return to that role. Would anybody like to make any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That takes us on to item 6, old business, climate sustainability plan edits and next steps. My understanding, excuse me, at this point is that our intention is to present the most developed section of the draft revised plan to the Township Board for their consideration, and we are awaiting input from the Transportation Commission, since there are sections of the energy chapter that pertain to transportation. The last meeting of the Transportation Commission had a very full agenda, particularly the master plan and updates on some of the big construction projects and other issues that the Transportation Commission has been dealing with. So they have not taken that item up. However, they also, at their last meeting, their chair resigned the position of chair, and I think resigned from the commission. So I think it falls back to us at this point whether we want to continue waiting for the Transportation Commission to have the opportunity to review formally those sections of the plan, given the fact they have both a leadership opening and a lack of full appointments to the commission. So it's my guess that they may not reach quorum for some time. And I would hate to see this forwarding of this plan to the Township Board delayed by that. I think we've done our due diligence in trying to provide our other commission with an opportunity to review our work. And if they're not able to do that in a timely fashion, perhaps we should go ahead and see if we can get the current chapter of the current version of the energy chapter onto the Township Board agenda.
When do the transportation commissions meet usually?
I'm struggling. I knew you were going to ask that question. It's either every other month or once per quarter. So it's definitely not a monthly meeting. That they met in November, so they may or may not meet in January. And as I said, without a chair and a lack of a quorum.
Is there a normal day of the week?
Oh, you're asking me all these difficult questions and putting me on the spot.
I mean, I'm very interested in transportation, but only certain days of the week work, especially with a teaching semester.
Yeah, yeah. So my proposal at this point would be that we go ahead and ask staff to get the current version of the energy chapter on the township board's agenda at the next opportunity. Does that sound like a plan? As far as the water section of the
I'm still working on it.
Of the plan.
Like halfway through. Just trying to cut it back in terms of the number of individual specified goals.
Did you get my email about what we came up with from the lakes?
Oh, no. Did you send me something?
Yeah.
Just
I sent
now?
it to you, no,
Today? When?
a couple months ago.
Oh, no.
Like,
I mean, that was after we
probably
talked.
November, when I knew I couldn't work on it like I wanted to. November, so I wrote down what we, I don't know, working with Lake Lansing Advisory, Susan,
Yeah, Susan.
Susan and Val and Ned and I had met on a couple times in September, and I emailed to you and Bill what we had come up with as, some objectives that mostly Val and Susan wrote, and I edited some.
Yeah, you were concerned about them being sort of too elaborate, if I remember right.
Well, I changed it a little bit to kind of make it go towards all bodies of water, so, and then, so there's that part of it. And then the wetland end of it, Yumin Lee, who also serves on Land Preservation Advisory Board, she wants to do some editing as far as that goes, but I just haven't been available.
Oh, okay, because
For that, too.
I've done some fairly severe editing, so maybe I'll send it around to you, hopefully I'm hoping by the end of tonight. I was working on it today, but my office has just moved, so you can imagine that books and books, bookcases and bookcases and boxes and all sorts of things are filling my brain. But anyway, yes, I did work on it mostly today. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Hopefully be able to get that something to you. But I have to look back at what you sent me now. Now you're worrying me.
It sounds like there may be enough progress to warrant having this as a discussion item next month.
Yeah, I was hoping to have it for
I
this.
don't know about that. I mean, only just one of them. So, yeah, so just so you know, like I have had to hand this over because of things that are going on in my life. So, so I don't know what I can commit to as far as working on that, but I know that UMan is interested, and I'm kind of concerned that February might be too soon. Maybe March.
Okay. All right. Are there any other sections of the climate sustainability plan update that anyone would like to discuss in terms of progress, readiness for discussion? I saw a note this earlier today from former Commissioner Lafferty providing a series of updates on where the food composting group is, and we can bring that up under reports and announcements, but I don't get the sense that that section is quite ready for sort of commission level discussion. Does that sound about right?
It is, it's close, but it still needs a little bit more.
Okay. Well, maybe between now and next month, we can get together and see if we can whip that into shape and see if maybe that'll be ready for consideration at our February meeting.
Yeah, I think it may be, so.
Okay.
I thought I would do too, but
Can I ask, did the stormwater folks meet? Did you guys have the meeting?
I had a meeting with the Director of Public Works and was able to gather some information, and we're working on getting more. Unfortunately fortunately for us, he's got an awful lot on his plate. And My hope is that as the major construction projects in the township near completion, our Department of Public Works will have a little bit more bandwidth to look farther into the future than when is that darned bridge going to open? And when are we going to finish the road project and such? I think it's just the nature of the small but highly competent team that we have in the township that individual projects can absorb all of the attention. So we have more information on stormwater, and we actually have something I'd like to discuss tonight on that topic. So it's something I'm continuing to put effort into. All right.
So, just so I understand it, there's a stormwater component, there's almost a separate green infrastructure, which is related, and then there's sort of a potable water, drinking water, groundwater section potentially. Maybe dividing those up. And Kendra's made a lot of progress on the green infrastructure piece of it. It's almost ready to go. I'm wondering, is that how you see the water section sort of into three components, or?
I think if we were to ask 100 people, we would get 33 in each of those three bins. And that's always a challenge when dealing with any environmental topic, is that there tends to be a lot of carryover from one to the next, and we can't really talk about energy without talking about water pumping, because that's what we use most of our energy for. These things do. And no, there isn't necessarily a reason why groundwater something we were going to do with groundwater would have to wait until we dealt with stormwater. Except that the same department that helps us deal with our stormwater is the department that delivers us our potable water and deals with our sanitary sewers. So in terms of engaging with township staff to make sure that we're including the most up-to-date and comprehensive information about what our current state and our plans, I'd rather do that more comprehensively with Public Works rather than going after them and say, well, let's talk about groundwater and how the water treatment plant, and then let's talk about our sanitary sewers, and then let's talk about our storm sewers, because they're dealing with them in a more integrated fashion. So that'd be my personal preference, is to continue dealing with them more comprehensively, but that's just me.
Well, I'll just tell you from my standpoint, like I tried just because it's so big to break it down into parts, and I'm hoping to put it all together. Like, so, so Human and I worked on the wetlands portion of it. There was the, detention, retention, ponds, lakes kind of group that met together and came up with some stuff. And then the stormwater folks were supposed to meet, and I wasn't able to attend those meetings. So, and then how do we integrate all of that? I have no idea.
Well, then there's the interface to the drain commissioner. That's a whole other subject.
Right. And that's where I feel like guidance needs to, it doesn't matter to me how it happens.
It might not hurt to actually have a meeting. Well, anyway.
So I think for the minutes, we're hoping to have some either comprehensive or bits and pieces of water in March, and hoping to have something on maybe recycling of food, composting issues at our February meeting. Anything else on climate sustainability plan update?
Quick question.
Yes.
So I might have a really old version, but I don't see groundwater management within the plan itself at all.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So-
I believe that was not part of the 2017 plan. And we're only talking about it now because we want it to be more expansive. We want it to be more comprehensive this time around. And if we decide that there it doesn't make sense to try to go down that road, then there's no requirement that we cover that topic.
I just say that because Mr. Ashrati and myself sit on the groundwater management board. So I feel if we want to go in that direction, that I could work with him and maybe draft something relatively short and concise.
Great. And my understanding is that we have basically two main issues from a sustainability standpoint when it comes to groundwater. One is sort of recharge and the quality of the aquifer, and the other is getting up out of the ground and the resources that we expend getting the water into use. And the second one, I tend to think of largely in terms of its energy component. Of course, there's all sorts of other issues about how the filtration is done and what's added to it, what's taken out of it, and what happens, what's the fate of those things. And I think a lot of that is really interesting and has important sustainability implications to it. From the energy standpoint, it's possible that could be largely covered under the energy section of the plan. I don't think it really currently is, other than maybe some brief reference to trying to offset some of those pumping requirements.
There is a possibility, and Leroy may know more about this, we've working with the MSU engineering on doing some audits of our various facilities, and there has been discussion of them looking at some of the larger pumps, because they use, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of electricity. And but I don't know, Leroy, do you have any further information on that? Do you think that's going to be covered with the MSU audit, or is that not clear at this time?
It's not totally clear. The first audit is going to be scheduled in February, and I believe that's mostly focusing on buildings. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at that data in the meantime.
I just have a sort of capacity question. Do we know what the sort of usage is relative to the tank capacity? In other words, is there a significant amount of room to use, say, for example, energy generated during the day by solar and then minimize the fossil-based energy usage, et cetera, kind of using the water system as a storage mechanism?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of options and opportunities, and that's one advantage with having a university involved. They can be quite creative.
Right.
Typically, though, when we look at pumping, we just look at what's the latest technology that's most efficient. And I don't know what our existing situation is or what could be the next best technology that might be cost effective or not. But there's all these other, like you mentioned, there's different possibilities, right? And that's, like I said, I think that's an advantage with having a university do an audit rather than just consulting engineers who are more just what they all look at. They aren't necessarily, some are creative, but not necessarily. Yeah, so we'll see, I guess.
There was a Green Themes discussion on this topic with a guest from the Meridian Water Authority, yeah? Who talked about capacity and the various processes that are used. Was that one recorded?
Yep. And next month we have Todd, forget his last name, from the water treatment plant, Water Resource Recovery Facility, will be speaking as well.
Oh, good.
And I think on those topics, what we might usefully do is simply summarize some of the information that we're getting in those less formal settings and bring that into the climate sustainability plan so people can see what that is. I certainly learned a lot learning about how the water treatment is done, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how the wastewater treatment is done. So. All right, if there's nothing else on climate sustainability plan updates, we'll move on to any other old business. I'm not aware of any other old outstanding.
We did have an application for a student commissioner, and I don't know if it fits into the old business or new business, but Amelia Saffron is here today as a potential student alternate. We created the alternate position as a way partly to accommodate students' busy schedules. If someone can't make it, we have alternates available, and it's also an opportunity for students to experience life on the commission. And so we potentially could entertain her application tonight and a chance for you to meet her. I'll stop talking and let, if you want to say anything.
Hello, my name is Amelia. I'm a junior at Okemos High School. I guess my primary interest here is, native plants, and I'm also interested in the water situation. So I'm glad that I get to hear part of that today.
Well, thank you for your interest, and I hope we can find a way for you to join us. Have you had any opportunity to look at our climate sustainability plan?
I think it's attached to the packet perhaps, but I don't think I've had the actual document.
We're always very interested in any input we can get from any direction we can get on that plan and its proposed revision. So please, if you have the opportunity, I know life can be very busy as a student, but yeah, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I guess that takes us to reports and announcements. I've already kind of told you what's going on with the Transportation Commission. Anybody, energy team, any reports for tonight?
Well, the discussions continue about solarized Meridian and EV charging, and things are, I think, looking promising in those areas. Last meeting, I mentioned about this grant application to the Public Service Commission that was headed up by the public sector consultants, which would involve Meridian Township and East Lansing and Lansing. And we did provide a letter of support signed by Dan. And so, and I'm optimistic that we would get funding for a number of reasons. It would be a fairly small grant for really planning best options for doing community solar kind of on a community level, at a municipal level. And that application goes in January 6th, and I don't expect we'd hear anytime soon. These things take a while. That's it.
Great. Commissioner Fraser wrote earlier to say that he would not be able to attend tonight on behalf of the Green Team. Is there any staff want to give any other updates on? I saw a note about planning activities for 2023. It seemed like there was a whole lot of things being planned.
Yeah, we're trying to get a little more in advance this year so that we can promote events at the marketplace. So there's a link to that in your packet. It's also in the staff update. I think it's the last page of your packet for the draft schedule. The next Green Team meeting is, I believe it's going to be the 12th of January. If anyone's interested in attending, we meet at 4 o'clock at Schuler's, the Chapbook Cafe. And so that's open to anybody who would like to participate.
Thank you. I mentioned that I'd heard from Val Lafferty earlier in the day. Anna, did you want to comment on that or other issues regarding food composting continuum and its new moniker?
Yes, so I think we're, what are we, good food to smart recycling now? Let me pull up.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yep, good food to smart recycling. So we're still wanting a focus on the continuum of the food system, but trying to, Val came up with a name that is a little shorter and more positive, I think, than, or at least, short and positive. So that's one development. Our next meeting is this Friday. I believe it's at noon. And I'm looking at her notes right now. It will include 3 officials from Canton Township explaining their new township composting program. And then, Chad Techner to explain how Metro Food Rescue in Wayne County is growing by leaps and bounds in his community. So my guess is with that is I don't know much about that program, but I assume it is a gleaning program where they're rescuing food and then providing it to people that are food insecure. So a lot of things in the works with the group. I unfortunately was not able to attend the last meeting, but hope to this Friday, so.
Great. Other boards, liaisons?
All right, land president meet in December, so I don't have anything to say on that. But related to the wetlands, World Wetland Day is on February 2nd. And so I believe the wetland team hasn't met, I don't know, since September, but the last I knew, or I saw that Emma put out that there's an event at Nancy Moore Park, 1 to 3 on World Wetland Day, which I think is a Wednesday. Well, wait a minute. It must not be.
Did you say February 2nd?
Yeah, so it must not be Wednesday, it must be Thursday, thank you. So there's that. Last year, we thought we had some leftover money after the mailings went out, and so we were talking about signage, and so Emma and Rebecca were working on developing some signage to go around to identify wetlands in different parks and preserves. And I believe that one of the last messages I got was that she was going to try to start unveiling that around World Wetland Day, but I don't know if that is really truly happening, and I can find out next week at Land Preservation to find, at the meeting to find out from her. But another thing I want to say about the wetlands, over the past year and a half, however long we've been doing this stuff, so we have some nice educational material now. We have got a brochure. We have a contractor notice about simple do's and don'ts. We have a residential notice about simple do's and don'ts. We had a letter that went out to residents that live on or adjacent to wetlands in October of last year. That brings me to this nice little piece of note that goes out every year in February, I think, with the tax assessment. And I know that we had wondered last year if we could have some more information to go along with this. Even now we have information on the website we have about wetlands. So here it just basically says you may live or you may not live on a wetland, but it doesn't really tell you what to do about it. So I was wondering, Trustee Winsinski, I know you had sent a message to Treasurer DeShane about this, like around September-ish. Did you hear back about maybe if we can like add even a line or send any one of these beautiful educational materials with?
I did reach out, Kendra, and I do know Treasurer DeShane did respond, so I'll have to look. I think it was too soon for the next tax bill, so it might be something that we just had our winter taxes sent out that we would have time for summer. Does it go out at summer or just February?
This notice right here goes out, I think, with the tax assessment.
Oh, our assessment, okay.
So I don't know who sends that. I mean, who even sends that?
It's got to be the treasurer.
The treasurer.
Nobody else would dare send out a tax bill.
But it's an assessment, though, it's not actually the bill.
He probably works with our assessor.
Okay.
Okay.
But this legally has to go, I'm assuming, because it's got lots of legal jargon.
It's within our ordinance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about the ordinance. So I think it goes out to everyone in the community, not just folks that live on wetlands.
Right. Okay.
So it's a nice opportunity to educate how many ever homes that this goes, or residences that this goes out to, property owners. So.
Are you're suggesting maybe modifying that existing language that may be required?
Yes, this is required, yeah.
Add website to it.
Just add the website on the bottom, or any one of these lovely
Yeah, or
things that we all worked on.
Or one of our flyers. And I think there was a mailing thing with that, so I'll double check.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, because it doesn't give, I mean, it's just a nice opportunity. And the other thing I will say about it, I mean, it was nice that the information went out in October. However, spring is a better time for some of this information to go out. For example, the one to the contractors, now that's separate from the assessor. Well, let me talk about the assessment, so I don't mix things up, sorry about that. So this is a nice one for the residents right here. So this is like, you know, information, pictures, simple do's, simple don'ts. You know, that could go with. That would be lovely if that could go with, or if we can't get that, then maybe just like the website on the bottom.
Flyer will get them to look at it, I think, a little more often. But I will ask.
And then the second item is that we had a contractor on our wetland education team, and he said that this would be really helpful to go out to contractors in February. So this got sent out in May of last year, I think it was. And, you know, the contractors are too busy by that time really to even pay attention. He said he didn't even think probably a lot of them would open their mail. You know, so, you know, I think it went out to 33 contractors last year. So it would be helpful if this could potentially go out to the 33 contractors February-ish, if that's possible.
Was that, so I think there's a few things here. So we can certainly ask, was that a date decided on us for last year, or was that a date decided by staff when it went to the contractors?
That would,
If I recall right, there was some logistical issues with getting printing and folding and envelope stuffing and things, and it finally went out, but it wasn't as early in the season as we had hoped, so that's how I understand it. And I think there was, like you said, there was some remaining budget, so there's already the funds set aside, and hopefully those technological concerns have been ironed out so that it's just a matter of pulling the trigger and getting the mailing done.
right, and, I mean, we were willing to have a mailing party to assist. I mean, you know, right, so whatever.
I think planning ahead will help us.
So our February meeting, we can be stuffing envelopes while we're
There we go.
licking stamps. Staff can arrange to have a stamp liquor.
I love it.
All right. There is one item I wanted to bring up, and we can call it wetlands. I can make that stretch if we could. And it's on our screens as the Commons Church. And this is a project I wanted to bring to the group's attention because, you can just leave it just like that, please.
Okay.
Because we could consider it something like creating wetland function. And this project is already underway. It's mostly done. It's all been approved. The permits have been signed and everything's done. But the reason I wanted to bring it to your attention is that the building permit calls this an infiltration basin. And it's something that, it's a term that I had not previously been familiar with. So I've been back and forth with planning staff on it a little bit and dug into it. This is the Commons Church on Marsh Road, just above the roundabout on your way to Meyer. And you may have noticed quite a bit of earth moving going on there. And my understanding is that basically they wanted to expand their parking lot. And because they were they were replacing permeable surfaces with an impervious parking lot, they were required to manage their stormwater. And that's very typical. We see when someone adds impervious surface that the drain commissioner requires that they not just send that storm surge down into the drain pipes immediately. And very often what I see is these detention basins, which are meant to hold the water, as much water as they can. When it overflows, then it does go down the drain, but it holds back a certain amount of it in order to seep into the ground or evaporate. In this case, this lattice work that you're seeing down in the bottom of the diagram, that the top is all the sort of parking spaces. The lattice work down at the bottom in that odd-shaped polygon is the detention basin. And inside of it, this dendritic pattern that you see is basically drain pipes. And what they've done is build something like you would have done if this had been pre-agricultural and you were trying to farm it and it was too wet to drive your tractor or your horses through, you would dig trenches and you would put drain pipes and you would allow the water to drain off so that it wouldn't be so muddy for your farming. Obviously, they're not planning to cultivate that detention basin, but what they're doing is they've dug this pit much deeper than it needed to be, laid a lattice of drain pipe into it, and then backfilled it. So as I understand this function, the rainwater would come off of that parking lot and surrounding areas, and it would sit in this basin. But because there's so much of it, rather than just sitting there and waiting to evaporate, eventually it can percolate down through the soil and whatever other substrate they've put around these drain systems, and then eventually make its way down through the storm system. And I don't know how novel that is sort of nationally or statewide, but I've been kind of geeking on stormwater for a while here in the township, and I've never seen this before. So I just kind of wanted to bring it to people's attention as another approach to stormwater management that is kind of doing what we're hoping, is holding stormwater back for a while, but also getting some filtration before it goes down to the Red Cedar River. I'm guessing that these pipes go due south and join the river, but it's always hard to tell where the stuff goes unless you're an expert. So,
Hey, Bill, do you know, was it recommended by the drain commissioner staff or by the consultant, or did the?
I've been trying to get clarity on that topic, but from what I can tell at this point, we don't know and we wouldn't know. Because when the application comes to the township for permitting, it doesn't matter who suggested what.
Right.
It's a matter of, does this design meet our standards? And it does. The permit was approved, and it did receive conditional approval from the drain commissioner's office. So they're certainly aware of it. Who was the impetus? I don't know. But I'm kind of working on digging into that.
And how do you feel about this as a solution compared to other solutions?
Well, I had previously been thinking more about planting vegetation that would increase evaporation. And I think this is incompatible with that. I don't know a whole lot about drain fields, but I know that my sewer line clogged up because tree roots got into it. And when you have pipes with water in them and things get dry, the trees will find a way to get to that water. And if you have a perforated pipe and you plant a tree on top of it, as soon as it gets dry, it's going to send its roots in there. So this is, I think, a very different approach. I would guess that there are still areas around that are far enough away from the drain system that it might still support some other vegetation than just mowed turf, but probably not down in the main part of the detention basin. So I'm going to continue to poke around, and I haven't seen the full plan that we're looking at tonight to look at the landscaping plan. I'm guessing that it's turf grass because that's the easiest thing to maintain.
Is there some kind of control of the flow rate? I mean, let's say the pond is full, it's a big flood. And so is it just a matter of percolation through whatever layers of sand or gravel are above the pipes, or?
Well, there's always an overflow. And if you go down and look at it, you can see that when it fills, it can't overfill into the parking lot. It will overfill into the drain. So it's not trying to hold everything. It's just trying to hold what it can hold.
Right, no, I understand that.
Excess
but I just meant, right, what sort of controls the rate of flow into the pipes, and also the corollary to that is how long is that mechanism going to last
Right.
in terms of silting up, et cetera, or filling up the pipes, et cetera.
And as I say, I haven't dug deeply enough into these plans to see, typically when you lay up pipe like that, you're going to surround it sometimes in fabric and sometimes in gravel and sometimes in other rock and then eventually in some kind of soil. What kind of soil? Is it sand? Is it,
Yeah,
clay?
that's
Is it, we're often told that permeable pavements don't work in Michigan because there's so much clay that you can get the water down through the pavement, but if it hits a clay layer, then you haven't really accomplished anything. And
Oh, no, right.
here, they did move an awful lot of dirt. So I guess one of my hopes is that as this project matures, we can get additional information and maybe even a presentation, if not from Public Works staff, then maybe from the Drain Commissioner's office or potentially even from the applicant or their consultants who can tell us about this new approach and how it works and how it's working.
What's the David Bowie pants part around it? I assume that's also a low sort of river, whatever, trough?
No, I believe that's a berm.
Oh, that's positive? Okay, I
Yeah.
wasn't seeing contours listed on there.
I
but-
believe what they did is when they were excavating, they pushed a bunch of the soil towards the back.
I see.
Because if you look on the right side, you see property parcel numbers. So these are all homes.
Okay,
And rule number one is don't flood your neighbor's home when you do stormwater detention. And as I, look in the area, it looks to me like there's already a natural berm in some of that area. So I think I believe that's what, those are contours. It's sort of an engineered
yeah, okay, sure.
dike, as it were.
Okay. We'll go visit the site.
So that's just something I wanted to tack on. If there's nothing else on wetlands, I can report that the Planning Commission last met on December 12th. We considered 2 special use permits, both of which have some environmental components. One was the Lake Lansing to MSU Connector Trail, and we saw here a while back a request for a compensating cut during Phase 2 in order to compensate for some fill that'll be placed during Phase 1. So Phase 1 is MSU, basically Hagedorn to Foods for Living, and some of that is going to require putting some fill into the floodplain. And so anytime you put dirt into a place where we store water by the river, then you got to dig a hole someplace else, and that'll be dug in part of the Phase 2 section, which is Foods for Living, basically here. And the second one was from Douglas J. You may have noticed that Douglas J at Four Corners got a facelift. They got a whole new, the east side of the building is all jazzed up, and they redid their entrance, and along the way, their contractor accidentally put some fill into the floodway so that people wouldn't get their feet wet going in the front door, so they had to come quite politely after the fact and say, I hope you don't mind that we did this, and they were granted that special use permit. So those are comments from the Planning Commission. Any updates from the Township Board?
Just one message I wanted to bring up is that it is January 3rd, and so our new budget went into effect. Fourth.
Yeah.
Our new budget went into effect, and I didn't know if we wanted to have additional discussions on like a spend plan for that, or if that may have happened and I'm just not up to date.
Say another few words on that.
So this year in the budget.
Yes, we want to triple our budget.
Then we need to have an ask. No. So this year in the budget, it was all combined into one. So green grants are pulled out, wetlands not pulled out. It's all one budget, which I believe is 30,000. I was going to double check. So with that, I didn't know as a group if we wanted to develop a spend plan so that we're covering things like postage or mailers or something like that. So I just wanted to bring that up. It is in effect, and we have funding. Another thing to mention is I did confirm with Manager Walsh that leftover funding does not roll over. So
Use it or lose it.
you use it or lose it. So now we know that, so our spending plan will be exact, right?
Great, thank you for that. It seems like a reasonable course of action might be to get a recap on spending from last year and have a formal item on our February agenda where we look closely at what we've spent last year on what, and get a solid number of what we have in the budget this year, and as a formal agenda item, adopt a spending plan for 2023. Well, it's going to be a busy February meeting.
I have a question for
Yeah.
Trustee Wenzicki. So at our I thought, so the money is all together now? Because I thought at our September meeting, you said that we had 10,000 for wetlands and then certain amount for grants, but now it's all together and now we
It's
have
one,
these added.
it's one line item, yep.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring that back up.
Okay.
It came back to us in one line item, which is fine, it was the same amount of money. It's just not delineated, so I didn't know as a commission if we wanted to consider the delineation and make sure the things that we want covered. And if we wanted to do grants or however we wanted to do that, just so that we spend it, and I'll confirm the line item.
Okay, that'd be great, because I think Emma started on signs and thinking about that, so.
Yeah, and you had mentioned that, so it just popped in my head.
Okay, Karen.
It's a lot of pizza.
Well,
It's compostable, right?
so, I mean, green grants, right? And so we spent, I think it was 10 grand on green grants last year when we worked on that, right? Then we had some money towards wetlands, and then I'm not sure what else we want to, but we'll just talk about it in February, what we want to do with all that.
Yeah, it would be very helpful for me to see an itemized list. It's not going to be, pages and pages. It's going to be,
3 or 4 items.
3 or 4 lines. So that would be very helpful, yeah.
I was under the impression that the green grants would, if we didn't spend it, would carry over. That's what I've been told. So this is, I don't know if this is going forward, that there is no carryover, but we've been lenient on some of the green grant projects. So some of them have not been paid yet, and that should come out of last year's money that was rolled over. That's my understanding.
So if you can get clarification on that from the manager between now and February, that'd be good.
Yeah, sure. And I think, so, yeah.
Preferably in writing.
I can send an email. So, and that was green grants only?
Right.
Because I thought we did it right around, I thought we figured out how to get it right at 10 grand when we worked on green grants
Yeah.
last year, right? Last year
Yeah.
when we did that, okay.
But we pay 50% up front and then 50% upon completion. And some of the projects, for example, there was a change in management at the Okemos Public Library, and the person heading up the project moved on, and there's some similar challenges getting signs printed and things like that. So not huge issues, but certainly something that affects the amount of money that we can spend next year if we have to bite into that.
I'm sorry. The manager's on vacation, so I won't send this until Monday because he will respond.
I'm just looking for something in the next packet that
Yep.
makes this explicit. Yeah, Anna.
So then in the next packet, are we talking more about what we did last year versus having a discussion about what we want to do next year? I'm
hoping that the packet summarizes in detail what we spent last year and what we're authorized to spend this year in total. And that our discussion will be how we intend to spend that money this year.
Okay.
That make sense?
It does make sense.
Any other reports or announcements? Okemos High School?
Yeah, so in terms of Earth Club, we have the Sustainable Fashion Committee where we recycle the clothes and then we uplift them into new clothes and kind of revamp them. And we've been selling them on this one website called Depop. and we made our first sale. So not only have we had one sale, we've had 3 sales. So that's heading in a very good direction, which will definitely help Earth Club raise some money for we have a lot of pests in the greenhouse right now, so we'll buy some bugs and other stuff that can help take care of those pest issues that we have with some of the money that we raise. So that's basically the only update that I have.
The pests are creepy crawlies or they're little furry friends?
They're creepy crawlies, so.
Okay.
What's better?
They nibble rather than chomp.
Yeah.
Good.
Brownfield Commission did not meet in December, so.
All right.
They're not.
And you're going to continue being our liaison to Brownfield? Yes. Do we have other liaisons I need to be worried about? I need to be thinking about? I need to be?
And although mine needs to, if staff could please inform the clerk so that I can get sworn in for Lamprey so I can vote, that would be great. So, thanks.
Super duper. If there's no other reports or announcement, that takes us to public remark. Remark, seeing none. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move twice. That makes the first and a second. Without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Bill.